Well, folks, it's kind of crazy that we're here. We are all gathered today for a very special book review. Today we're going to be talking about Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. If for some reason you don't know what Kingdom of Ash is, this is the 8th the 8th book in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. It's a very epic fantasy series about an assassin and some of her friends, and they save the world. Or do they? Really quick right off the bat, I'm just gonna say, if you haven't read Kingdom of Ash, you probably want to leave. I'm not gonna spoil you yet, but I know the comments are probably gonna have spoilers, and if for some reason you haven't read this far in the series, there's absolutely no reason why you should be here. Unless for some reason you really don't like Throne of Glass and you just want to bitch about how much I love it, then I guess you're fine. The one thing I will say, if you haven't read Kingdom of Ash yet and you're like, Jenna, I really want to, but I haven't. But I also haven't read Tower of Dawn. What should I do? I've said this in literally every video I've made about Throne of Glass since I read Tower of Dawn. You have to read Tower of Dawn. You have to read Tower of Dawn. Just trust me. I do have reading vlogs up of every single one of these books. Literally all of them. I also have book reviews of all of them except for The Assassin's Blade. I have reading vlogs. I have book reviews. I have vlogs of me going to meet Sarah J. Maas. I also even have some songs about these books. What more could you want, honestly? If I still haven't convinced you to read Tower of Dawn, let me just say I am really happy that I decided to, because Tower of Dawn is like my third favorite book in the series right now. Also would recommend, if for some reason you're like, ooh, I'm just gonna dive into this. I haven't read since Tower of Dawn came out last year. It's fine, I just won't reread. I would recommend you not do that. If you're not actually going to reread, definitely try and watch my reading vlogs, because I do kind of hint at most of the foreshadowing throughout the whole books. I do kind of hint about the foreshadowing throughout the whole series. So if you haven't seen the hints, or you want to see the clues, or like you don't want to reread and you want to experience it, check out the reading vlogs. But if you have the time, if you have the energy and the willpower, I would recommend doing a full series reread, all the way from Assassin's Blade on. You can even do Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn at the same time. I have a reading guide for that. It'll be in the description below. Trust me, you're gonna be so much happier. I know I'm so much happier. I just did a series reread about a month ago, and it was intense, but it was worth it. So, not going to spoil anything for you yet. I'm still just talking generally, so you don't have to freak out. I'll warn you when I'm going to start spoiling things. As you know, Throne of Glass means a lot to me. I've been reading it since 2014. It is my jam. And so for that reason, Kingdom of Ash was kind of a lot. Going into it, I think everybody was a little bit terrified, because we really haven't read a good Sarah J. Maas finale before. ACOWAR, I don't think actually counts, especially having read this. The two are nothing alike. And if you had read ACOWAR before you read Kingdom of Ash, you would be shocked that they're written by the same author, honestly. So that being said, did I enjoy it? I did. If you can't tell from my really sappy Instagram post, or all the things I posted on Twitter and all my Instagram stories, I had a really good time reading this book. And to cut the story short, I never in my life, 11 years, never in my life considered that another book would become my favorite book of all time, because I have put so much love and energy into Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. It is like a part of my soul. And I don't want to be too hasty, because it's a big thing, but I just want to say right out of the gate, right now, it is my favorite book I have ever read. It was super enjoyable to read. It was really funny. Almost every single chapter I was screaming because of some great plot twist or exciting thing that happened. I love literally every single character in the main cast, and it's a big main cast. There's like at least 15 of them. I love every single one of them equally. They're wonderful. The ending was perfect. There was just enough closure. There was just a lot of feelings. I cried basically for about an hour this morning while I was finishing it, because it was just so beautiful. It was unexpected, yet also a little bit predictable, but not in the way you would think. It was really just a stunning conclusion. And more than that, it wasn't just like a finale. It was a book with a real message, and wow, I don't have the words to explain it to you. It just means so much to me. So I'm not going to sit here and do any more non-spoilery things, because I want to talk about it. So if you haven't read it yet and you don't want to get spoiled, now would be the time. I'm going to give you like a minute to gather your belongings and get out of here and go read. And I know it's a lot of work to get here. If you haven't read the series yet, or you're thinking about reading the series, or you're halfway through the series and you're like, I just don't know, is it worth it, Jenna? Let me tell you, it's not for everybody, and a lot of people are going to hate on this finale. They're going to hate on Sarah for the rest of her life. They're not going to enjoy it the way that I do, and that's okay. But if you're anything like me, if you like any of the stuff that I like, if you have the same temperament, the same dreams as I do, like, if we're at all similar, I feel like you should give it a try, because it really has changed my life, and I don't know, it's just done a lot for me. It's been a light in my life that I didn't know I needed or wanted. Are you done? You ready? Okay. Head out. Bye. See you soon. Or in a long time. I don't know. We'll talk. Okay. Bye. It's really hard for me to believe that we're here, even though I read this and I know it's real and like I know this is all happening, because this may be the series that I've waited on the longest. This is a series that has been growing with me more than any series in my entire life. And I know you're going to be like, but Jenna, Harry Potter, but Jenna, Twilight. Yes, yes, yes. There are a lot of those series. There's a lot of series I grew up with that I've had in my life for a long time, that I've just adored, that they're wonderful. I really anticipate the finale, whatever. But I realized as I was starting this book and as I was going through it that I have not stuck with a series this long waiting on the finale. And I haven't been here since the beginning. I started reading it a little bit after Air of Fire came out, so I had to wait for basically all of these books. But I had to wait for 4 books! 4 books! And that was 4 years of my life that I waited. And so I've been so attached to this series now for longer than I've been attached to any series before the actual finale came out. And I didn't realize how much it meant to me, I don't think, until I did my series reread this summer. It's been there for me through college, and I know college isn't always like the most formative for some people. For me, I learned a lot in college, and I'm definitely a different person than when I started. So I feel like this series has just been with me through so much. It's just super weird. Like the whole time I started it, when I was reading it, I was just like shocked that it was happening, because it honestly did not feel real. I really have no idea where to start with this review. Obviously, this is a 992-page book. I experienced so many feels. If you've watched my reading blog, you'll know kind of a little bit of what I went through. I basically documented the full experience. Like, I was crying, I was laughing, I was screaming about people, I was listening to the audiobook in the car, I was reading it at a hotel, I was reading it in my room at 2 a.m. Like, I documented everything. And yet, sitting here in this chair, I have no idea what I read. It's funny. Let's start with the first thing that I noticed. Immediately when I started off this book, it felt like a different book. It felt like a totally different series from the rest of these books. And all of these books have a similar kind of epic tone of like, ooh, we're in a fantasy world, like, Aylin's really badass, all of her friends are too, like, it's awesome, it's super fun, whatever. When this book started, and I'm gonna say from like chapter 1, after Rowan and Aylin have their like POVs in the beginning, we get real chapter 1 with Adian. I think it's Adian. I honestly don't remember. I'm gonna go with Adian, but I don't remember. But we start out, and immediately from page 1, I'm like, this feels like a finale. This feels like an epic conclusion. It feels like I'm watching a movie, like I'm watching Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, when you get in there and you're like, oh snap, shit is hitting the fan, like, we are doing this, we're going to war, it's happening. And I don't know how she did it, because honestly, I think it read very similar to the rest of her books. Like, it's the same person writing it, but for some reason when I started this one, I was like, I felt like I had just jumped into like a tub of cold water. Even all the way through, it just felt like it was such a grand scale. It felt, I kept saying this again and again, I texted Haley a bunch, but it felt like I was reading Infinity War. Avengers Infinity War, have you seen it? It's a lot. It felt like that, and it was weird, but really great. I think it was more successful than Infinity War in those ways. In Infinity War, one of the things that happens with that story is because it's such a huge cast of characters, the story just kind of like jumps around to different POVs the whole time, and like at one point you're like on Earth, and then you're going to space, and then you're going somewhere else in space, and you're just kind of like jumping around everywhere. And that's what this felt like, exactly like that, actually. Very stressful, but almost worse than Infinity War, because there was just so many point of views. Honestly, that's one of the things I think that I'm most impressed about by it, was that it didn't get suffocated by the point of views. There were a couple moments where I was like, oh my god, we have so many point of views, this is a lot. But I think she pulled it off, and she did it in such a way that like it made sense, and she tried to get as many characters together as she could, as many different interactions between characters as she could, and she did honestly just like a really phenomenal job. I would like to take a moment to applaud Sarah J. Maas. She is one of the smartest writers I know. The fact that she planned all of this over 8 books is incredible. The fact that she wrote 900 pages is incredible. The fact that she had, I didn't even count, but there's got to be at least 15 to 20 point of views in this book, and all of them are just like amazing and incredible, and I wanted every single one of them. The only reason I hated when she switched POVs in this book was because I was very intent on what was happening in the plot with certain characters. But for the most part, like, during battle sequences, I was like, oh, hell yeah, we get to switch to another POV. Let's do this. Like, I want to see what Lysandra's doing. Let's go to Nesrin. Let's go. She just did such a great job. I'm still baffled by it. So that was one of the things I noticed, was the tone and the epicness of it. It felt like a finale, but it felt different from any other finale that I'd read. But I would also like to point out, I think this finale is interesting because in some ways it is a combination of every finale I've ever read, but in a new, unexpected way. Going into it, I think the thing I was most nervous about was that we would get a very generic finale of something that's like, it's the main character sacrificing herself, and then she died, and then her lover was sad, but everybody moved on, and, like, they made it, name that book. Or we get something like, oh man, she sacrificed herself, but wait! An intervention from some mighty being. She is still here and alive, and she has come back to fight the battle. Oh, and she beat the evil one, and all hail the savior girl. Name that book. I just was afraid that it was going to be very typical, very tropey, and in some ways it kind of was. There were a lot of things that happened in this finale that have happened in other finales, but I think she used it to her advantage because she didn't just, like, stick with one and say, oh, yep, we're going to do that for this finale. That's what it is. It was like she took every good trope out there, and even some of the bad ones, and was like, all right, we're going to put all of this into one book, so it's going to be the most epic thing that you've ever read. Like, God, I can't even begin to explain how epic it is. Like, there's this scene, there's so much. I don't even know if I can properly explain all of these points that I'm making, because in my head I'm like, yes, remember the thing? And then you're like, wait, what thing? I don't remember what thing. Oh God, now I'm reliving it. I'm sorry. I'm really all over the place. It's fine. I can't think of any examples right now to tell you, but I think I talked about this in my reading vlog, so if you want to go check that out, that'll be more specific. Of all the things that happened in this book, I was not saddened by any of them. None of them made me sigh, or none of them made me go, oh man, I can't believe she did that. Like, that's a bummer. I didn't want her to do that, or I wish she did something different. I wish she did something unexpected. Like, that's not Sarah J. Maas for the most part. She simultaneously met my expectations and my predictions, but also, like, did it better. There were a number of things that I had predicted going in, of, like, theories that I was like, I think this is going to happen. I think this person's going to die. I think we're going to get this. And for the most part, a lot of the things I guessed were true. But to combat that, there was so much else that happened that was so unpredictable that I didn't expect, that I didn't even know was possible, that she did, that balanced out the things that I was like, oh, this is predictable. Like, I felt like a winner when I predicted things. I was like, oh, hell yeah, I got this. I'm smarter than Sarah J. Maas for once. And then she'd, like, have a plot twist, and I'd be like, just kidding, I'm not that smart. But some of the things I predicted that came true, kind of sad, but I did predict Gavriel dying. Emily and I talked about this, and we were like, he is the only person in the main cast who makes sense to die, because he would be a great sacrifice. Adian would be really sad, but everybody else would be like, yeah, Gavriel, he did the thing. He's, you know, brave or whatever. He would make his sacrifice noble for Adian, and it would be beautiful. And it was, and I cried, and it was awesome. I also predicted the ending where, basically, it's like Guardians of the Galaxy and Infinity War at the same time. I predicted the Guardians of the Galaxy part of it. I was like, listen, I just need a scene, like, they're all gonna hold hands and they're just gonna, like, fight Maeve with the power of love, and it's gonna be wonderful. And that's literally what happened. Aelin is like, all right, let's grab hands, Rowan. Let's grab hands, Lorcan. Come on, Fenris. Like, we got this. And they all defeated Maeve together, and it was beautiful. Oh, Emily and I were talking about who was gonna have sex first, and I think I was like, it's gonna be Dorian and Manon. And they were. And then Irene and Kale, which I was like, that's gonna be the next one. And they did. Can we talk about how there was, like, minimal sex in this book? I was so freaking pleased. And I know in part that's because it's such a long book and, like, they're all battling and they don't have time to, like, make love or whatever. But I was, like, really scared that I was gonna have all these sex scenes since they're all getting together. But they were all very tame and subtle and short. And I was like, yes, girl, like, you pleased me. This is perfect. Like, I think for real, this book might have the least amount of sex in almost any Sarah J. Maas book, except maybe Throne of Glass. I don't know. But it was wonderful. I love that part of it. But that's not to say I didn't enjoy all the couple-y stuff. This book is so big, I honestly am losing track of my thoughts about it. Let's just talk about the end scene, you know, where everybody does the thing. It's not even the end scene. Literally, anytime we hit a big point in this book, I was like, oh man, we're finally, no, I still have 200 pages left? What? Anyways, the big scene where our peeps defeat little Mr. Erewhon. Excuse me, that was epic. Irene Towers, am I right? That whole scene while they were trying to, like, rip apart Erewhon, it was so freaking amazing, because I was like, this is if this is what would happen if Infinity War had gone correctly. Infinity War spoilers, I guess. But there's that scene at the end with Thanos where they're all on the planet. You know the scene I'm talking about. It's Tony and the gang, and they have this epic plan, and it almost works. You know that plan? The whole time they were doing this with Erewhon, I was like, oh my god, it's Infinity War. Does Sarah J. Maas like Marvel? Did she copy Infinity War? I don't know, but it's Infinity War. And then Dorian started talking, and I was like, oh my god, if Dorian Peter Quills this, I'ma be mad. Even Irene was like, Dorian, don't you dare. And he's like, listen, I have one thing. She's like, I swear to God, I will cut you. Anyways, that was a great scene. I love that whole scene. Honestly, I don't even think I can sit here and tell you all the scenes that I love because there's just so many of them. Every other page, I feel like there was like an epic battle, or like somebody was coming to some realization, or like a couple was reuniting. I mean, it was just like so great. There were a couple times where I was a little bit upset. There was a lot of suffering in there and a lot of stress. Mainly, okay, the main issue I have with the book, if I have any, is I was just really upset about Adian the whole time because everybody else is like sure, they're suffering a little bit here and there, but they all like very quickly got to like a good place where they were like, oh, we're reunited with the person we love, or oh, we're actually winning this battle, or oh, like we're going to find somebody that we really care about. Whereas Adian and Lysandra just spend the whole book like losing. They just keep losing battles and almost dying, and then they keep battling back and forth being like, listen, you should have realized I love you. No, you don't. I love you. Oh my gosh, I hate you. Like, and it was just very frustrating. Like, I love them and I loved those scenes, but also I was like, can we skip to the happy? I'm done with the suffering. It was a lot. But I think that's what makes it a good finale, is that there wasn't, like, sure, it was kind of a convenient ending in some ways. Also, there was so much suffering that I was like, all right, this was not an easy win. I'll give it to you. It was good. Let's talk really quick about why I think this is a good finale and why I don't really care that it's kind of a convenient, happy ending and it's very perfect. I think a lot of critiques for finales these days are that finales can either come across as too perfect or like too much of a happy ending, or there's like not enough death or not enough people are sad at the end. Like, there's just a lot of that going on, and I do that a lot, so don't think it's just you. Part of the reason why I don't care for this book is that, number one, I think this series is a fairy tale, even though it's very dark and it gets to some really dark places throughout the whole course of the series. Like, in the end, it's a fairy tale. There are fairies in it. Did you know? It's like the story of love and a happy ending and like princesses and princes, and like Sarah is a hopeless romantic, so I kind of expected it to be like a happy ending. That's part of the reason why I don't mind, because I wanted to see a happy ending. Like, this is my finale because it's everything that I wanted. Like, for some reason, I think Sarah just like saw everything that her fans wanted, and she was like, oh, you're right, I want that too. We're gonna make it a difficult route to get there, but once we get there, it's gonna be everything you want really quickly. I don't think I've seen a finale like this except for Winter. Winter was kind of like that, where, spoiler alert for Winter by Marissa Meyer, if that's still a thing, basically everybody kind of pairs off at the end, and when that happened, everybody was really mad for some reason, and I was like, but they're together, that's what we wanted, right? And the same thing is happening with this one. It's like, after the battle happened, we had almost every couple have a POV where they were like, let's love each other and get married, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then like Aelin had her coronation, and that was really beautiful, and like I feel like a lot has been riding on that. We've been waiting for that scene for so long. There's so many finales these days that stop before the happy ending, where they like win a big battle and they all look at each other and they're like, well, it's gonna be great once we figure this all out someday, and then it like cuts to the end and it's like a vague epilogue and you're like, all right, cool. Even Harry Potter, like we get the epilogue 19 years later, but you don't actually see like the workings of everybody like come together like in first person, like right there. And in this one, like I feel like she took the time after the battle, after everything bad happened, to be like, all right, I'm gonna give you guys everything you wanted. We're gonna give you a scene with Lorcan and Elide saying I love you and that they're gonna get married. We'll have a scene with Adie and Lysandra where they finally make up and realize they're gonna get married. We'll have a scene with Aelin and Rowan where they're just like having a good time in bed and Aelin's coronated and all that. And then we're gonna have a scene with Kale and Irene where they're just like having a good time and he gets letters from his mom. Like, she thought of literally everything throughout the whole series and like pushed it in at the end, and it was beautiful. And that's kind of why I love it, because it's a happy ending. And I think there's not enough books out there. There's just not enough media in general where happy endings happen. Like, I don't think anybody who's read this series is reading it to like have a realistic ending, if you can call it that. Like, I don't think any of us really care if she came out and was like, so realistically what would have happened is that Aelin would have died forging the lock and none of this would really matter, and then everybody would be dead and it'd be sad. And I think if that happened, a lot of people would riot. like, we read books and we watch movies to escape, to get to a better world. And I think this series, as dark as it is like supposed to be a light to the world. It's supposed to be a way for us to like look at our actions and be like, oh, this is how I can become a better person. This is how I can love better. This is how I can spread the light, be hopeful, like be a better person, whatever it may be. And I love that. Like, I love that that's the whole point of this series. It's similar to Harry Potter, that like the center of everything is love. That's why I feel like Throne of Glass and Harry Potter are like two sides of a very similar coin. Let's go to the main thing that I want to talk about for this whole video. The characters. Actually, really quick, before we jump into the characters, let me talk about the one scene, the little egg, the treasure that she snuck in for us on page 800 and 801. You know which one I'm talking about. Before I got like halfway through, I saw an Instagram post and somebody was like, oh my goodness, the pleasant surprise on page 800 and 801. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? What does that mean? And I was reading it at like 2 a.m, and by the time I was getting around page 800, I kind of forgot where I was, like what pages. It just goes by so fast when she's like traveling through the gates and like working on the lock and like whatever, that you kind of just forget what page you're on. And so I had forgotten about page 800, and then all of a sudden I like glanced down and was like, oh, it's happening. She's going through the gates, and immediately when she started falling through gates, I was like, here we go. This is it. We're gonna get Akatar. It's gonna happen. And she like made some comment. There is one that I'm curious if it's a Crescent City reference, because she talked about like a city with a bunch of lights. So we'll come back later to that next time when I'm reading Crescent City, but I'm hoping that was a reference to Crescent City. However, the main big thing, like the pinnacle of her whole career right here, she literally had Rhys hand push Aelin to a stop so that she could find Rowan. And Faye was pregnant. And it was a lot at 2 a.m. to read that scene, honestly, because I was like, wow, she told us that it was a word gate away, or 2, and we didn't. There was one moment where she's like, oh, and like a Fae guy with wings and like his pregnant whatever, and I was like, there they are, there's Faye Sand. And then like the next like paragraph is Rhys Sand being like, hey, like I'm waving, and he's like, oh, you need help? Let me just slow you down real quick. And Aelin was like, bye, thanks. We want to talk about all the characters and all the fun times we had. My favorite character in this book series is Lorcan Salvatore. Who knew? I will say, before I go any further, that literally there has never been a series where I've loved this many characters at one time. I don't dislike any of them. Like, I care about all of them and I want all of them to be happy. Seeing every single one of them in their POVs was just like, it was so fun. Lorcan Salvatore, the love of my life, my sweet, sweet Lorcan. He just underwent so much in this book. I just adore him. He's wow. The scene where he almost died was kind of like a personal victimization to me. I felt so attacked. I was like, if he dies, I'm gonna quit reading. Like, legitimately going to stop. It's awful. Even when Fenris was close to dying, I was like, if you let him die, I'm out. Like, I need him to be in this series forever. But I absolutely love Lorcan and Elide in this book. I love that Elide like waited until the last possible moment to be like, God damn it, I realized I love him. I want him back. She raced all the way across that battlefield just to save him. And then he had the audacity to be like, I love you. You're better off without me. I'm gonna die. And she's like, not on my watch. Not on my watch. So I love that. I love their scene at the end where they have that super cute moment and he's like, Elide, ask me to marry you. Ask me to go to Prim. Ask me. And she's like, okay. And then he's like, I'll think about it. Also, the scene where they kind of, she's in the bath and he's like, a dangerous time, bath time. Part of the reason I think why I love Elide and Lorcan so much is that I see a lot of myself in Elide, which sounds weird, but what I love is that out of all the other like relationships in this story, these are the most 2 unequally matched sexual partners. And I love that Elide in this book, she has that scene with Lorcan where they're like kind of making amends. And she's like, I don't know what to do. Like, you gotta tell me, am I doing this right? I'm not really sure. And he's like, honey, you're doing great. Like, I'll help you, but you got this. And she's like, I don't really know what's happening. I'm not really sure. Just, I love you. Let's do this. But I'm so unsure. And Lorcan was just like very patient with her, very gentle. And like, I appreciated that. Also, the whole time that he was like, are you sure? Like, we are doing this. We're not going to go that far. Like, are you comfortable? And she's like, I'm great. And he's like, are you sure though? I just want to make sure. Consent. We stand. And that brings me to my final point. Lord Lorcan Locken. I really loved Dorian in this book. And I don't think I talk about Dorian enough, especially in like all my other reading vlogs and reading reviews. Like, I don't talk about Dorian nearly enough. And I know you probably think like Jenna doesn't really care about Dorian, but Jenna does. Believe me. Not as much as some people. He's not like my ride or die or anything, but I really adored what she did with him in this book. Like, he became such an interesting character because he was grappling with his humanity. He was still dealing with trauma. He was trying to like free himself from that collar even though it was gone. He became more powerful. He was ready to sacrifice himself. He had some darkness inside of him that he's working on. And at the end of the day, like, he just killed it as Irene. Also, I was really scared when he went to Morath and then he was like, Maeve, let's get married. And I was like, what? I still don't fully ship Manon and Dorian, but I don't dislike them together. I think they'll be very happy if/when she gets married to him in a couple years. Can we talk about the Dorian and Kale reunion? Because we've been waiting for that shit for a long time, and oh my god, it was so wonderful. I think it was brilliant of her too that she spread out the reunion in a way that I had always anticipated that the first time they saw each other it would be like really happy, and immediately they'd be like, so what's new with you? And Kale would be like, this is my wife. And Dorian would be like, oh, this is the person I've been sleeping with. She's a witch. And it would like go down like that. But Sarah like split those things up. And she gave us the Kale and Dorian reunion first with Irene. And then later on, she was like, here, you can have your Manon thing, whatever. And Kale's like, and you were going to tell me about this when? Meanwhile, his wife is like, I think you guys should get married. And Dorian's like, I like you, Irene. When Dorian started weeping when he saw Kale and Kale ran to him, that's a true bro TP right there. I lost it. It was so beautiful. Speaking of my man Kale, we love him so much. He has progressed so well since Tower of Dawn. Him and Irene having a baby, as one does. I absolutely loved to see how Irene interacted with Kale's father and how that dynamic happened. Was really distraught when he got that letter from his mom at the end. It was a very painful time, but very beautiful. I loved it. I love that he finally was able to like conquer his fear of his father and be like, listen, Dad, like I'm more powerful than you and I'm gonna own it. Like, get out of here. And his dad could do nothing. It was great. Kale was just like so great. Like, he has come so far. I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud of Sarah for doing that for him. Wow, we stan. That brings us to his wife, Irene, who is wonderful and powerful AF. And I'm pretty sure I predicted her doing the thing with Erewhon. Maybe not at the beginning, but there was a point during my vlog for this book where I was like, it's happening. She's gonna heal Erewhon. I'm excited. And they did it. I was shocked. I had no idea. It was such a scene. I just remembered Dorian's father's name is Dorian. I'm sad. It's like every minute I remember a new piece of information that I forgot and then I get sad. It's disgusting. So, Irene. I don't know. Irene is probably in my top 5 favorite characters in this book. She is just incredible. Like, she works tirelessly as a healer even though she's pregnant and everyone tells her to stop and she's like, nah guys, I got this. And she had so much power in her, so much power that she could actually defeat Erewhon. Like, I think it's brilliant that this book turn the idea of like a savior type of finale on its head. So many books focus on like one person, and a lot of times I feel like the friends of that savior are always like, I'll help you, we can carry the burden together, and the savior is always like, no, like I'm gonna do this on my own. And like, to be fair, Aelin is like that. That is the kind of person she is. That's what she did for half of this book, but I really appreciated that at the end of the day, like, it was a group effort. I think a lot of times these kinds of books, people don't let the group do the group thing. And it's always that people, like, some people are weak, some people don't do enough. And it's, in this book, everybody is so equally matched. There's so much power, so much knowledge, so much bravery, that literally everybody is just, like, functioning at full strength for the whole book. And all of them are like, well, this is it. Like, guess we're all gonna die together. And everyone is willing to make sacrifices, and everybody is willing to work really hard and be friends and like powerful friends. And like, can we talk about the scenes at the end of the book where they're all just like hanging out together and Dorian's like, Nesrin, I would love to have like a queen in the South. This is great. And Manon's like, yeah, Aelin, you and me, like, we're 2 queens. We gotta stick together. And like Ansel and Manon are hanging out, and like, I need to sit down again. I'm already sitting. I need to sit down. It was just really powerful. And I think that's why I love these books and Sarah's books so much, is that she focuses on like really important things that are like friendship and love and caring for other people and being a good person and being brave and like all these things that are just so epic and beautiful. So happy that Lysadian made up. I love them so much. And Evangeline, oh my god, can we talk about the scene at the end where Aelin walks up to Darrow and Evangeline is right there. And he looks down and is like, all right, your majesty. And she looks at Evangeline and she's like, win me my kingdom, Evangeline. I started weeping. It was rough. I love that we got her point of view in this because we haven't gotten it before. And the fact that she was out there like doing things. The scene where Aedion talks to Evangeline before the battle and talks about how he was just like having diarrhea. Brilliant. I just pictured him as Chris Hemsworth for that whole scene and it was beautiful. I loved it to pieces. Aedion, my poor son. I think he had the roughest time throughout this whole book. But the scene at the coronation when she offers him the blood oath, I started bawling. It was so beautiful. Oh man, we stand one man. Also the scene where she and Aedion reunite and she sees that he has her father's shield on the back. Broke me. It was too much. I couldn't handle it. Loved it. Yes, and then there's of course the scene where Lysandra almost dies because of the Ilkin and she gets back to the tent. I think this is where this happens. And Aedion's like, I still mean every word I said on that beach. And it's like, listen, even though he was a real douche for most of the book to her, we still stand and I would die for him. And I'm so happy that they're happy again because that's one of my favorite ships too. Lysandra kicked ass. I love how her story has progressed because she doesn't really, her powers take a long time to work through. Like, I appreciated in this book that she was so ready to switch between forms, whereas in like the previous books it kind of took her a while to like get to bigger forms. It's like now she's been practicing so much that she can like switch from like a wyvern to a sea dragon to like a rook, like all in one fell swoop, and it was just like really awesome. I love how powerful she became. The scene where she goes after Darrow and just like cuts his, you know, like verbally, not literally. That whole scene was beautiful. The scene at the coronation when she's like walking down the aisle with her head held high and everyone was like, that's a shapeshifter who like did things, like, oh my god, it was so beautiful. Oh my god, I just remembered the scene where Aelin is going to march out of the kingdom and like into the city and she's like, all right guys, gather up, all my friends. This is literally like I think my favorite scene in the most, like in the entire series, because this is the epitome, the pinnacle, the center of this whole series is this one scene. Like everything that it stands for and everything that it's become, like this is what it is, this one scene where Aelin gathers her entire friend group, literally like all 20 of them or whatever it is, and she looks at all the ladies and is like, ladies, let's go, like get in line, we're gonna march out together because all of you are powerful and all of you are important to me. And I swear I started bawling. It was a lot. Like that was the scene I was waiting for, honestly, was a scene like that where everybody was close, everybody was in one place, everybody was happy, and everybody could just like show off to the world and be like, look, we're badass, we're really smart, we're powerful, we're kind, we're brave, we're beautiful, like we're killing it in our lives. And it was awesome. And then all the boys followed in the back. I was like, this is my dream coming true, it's fine. Nesryn and Sartok, they're doing great. They're the two people I feel like that got jilted the most in this book. I really did want a Sartok POV and I did want more growth for Nesryn as a person. I feel like a lot of times whenever her POV was thrown in, it was kind of just as an afterthought to prove that she was still there, which makes me sad because I think she deserved better. Nesryn will always be the character that deserved better in this series, but I did appreciate whenever she was on the page. I was just like, look at her go with her Rooks and Borta, and oh my god, Borta. We love Borta. And Sartok. And Hussar and Cashin. Literally when Cashin showed up, I was like, wow, we stand. We love one man. The scene where Falcon comes to Lysandra after he gets his youth back and he's like, hey, I'm your uncle, and then she wept. That was a beautiful scene. Fenris was great. Loved his character development. He's a great dude. But there's like Ansel, who did awesome. When those heads came flying down, that was a lot for me to handle. Rowaelin, our queen and king. I'm sad. They went through so much together. It was a lot. I was in so much pain for like the whole book because of them. But I just, wow. I don't even have anything specific to say about them. I just adore them, and I love how Aelin started trusting him a little more in this book, and she like let him in on some of the plans. And then when he like had her back, literally, when she went through that word gate, and then Mala was like, your maid has already got it, and like all of those word mark tattoos came out to guide her home. I was just like, wow, this is too much. I can't handle it. I really can't. Aelin went through so much throughout her whole life, but in this book specifically, we had so many highs and lows for her. It was just a lot. Because I forget that she starts out in this book with Maeve being tortured by Karen. And it's like so bad that she gets a whole new body, but also a lot of it is mental, so she has no idea. It kind of felt like Inception. And Oh, this was another trope I forgot about from the finales that she stole, was the real or not real trope from Mockingjay of like, I don't know what's real, but this is awful. Like, I hate this. That was just a lot for me to handle. I felt like PETA, and it was rough. I really loved how her ending was resolved, because in some ways it was a little convenient. I was kind of expecting her to be more human than Faye, but I think Sarah was like, guys, I'm going to be really nice to you this time. Like, this has to be a beautiful ending. I don't care what you think. Like, she gave us Faye Aylin, who will be there forever. She still has a normal amount of magic. She doesn't even have, like, no magic or just water. Like, she still has magic. It's just, like, normal, which is what she wanted from the beginning. So, like, that's a lot to handle. It was really sad the whole time because she kept being like, I just am so tired, Rowan. I want it to be over. And, like, in some ways I understood. Like, if I were in her shoes, I would definitely be like that. But it was just really sad. Like, I was sad for her the whole book because I was like, girl, you're so much better than this. I know you are. And then I was just really sad. But she still came out with a win of, like, one of those big plot twists during the Maeve fight. Like, wow, look at her go. She's amazing. I loved her inner dialogue during that, like, whole ending where she's just, like, talking about love and, like, the power of things. I love that they mentioned Sam and Nehemia. Like, I think one of my favorite things about this book is that it is such a crossover book. Like, 99% of the characters in the rest of the series are mentioned in this final book. The only ones I missed were Enda and Luca. Is that right? Emrys and Luca. Yeah, I think that's right. I'm really sad that we didn't get to see them again in this book, but I'm gonna imagine that they, like, eventually saw Aelin in her court. But, like, literally everybody else showed up, and they even, like, her parents were there. Like, they talked about her parents coming to say goodbye to, I don't remember if it was Mala or whatever. And, like, the mention of Sam when she's, like, doing the tower thing, and Rowan's like, Sam Cortland. I was like, wow, we love Sam, we miss him. And then at the very end, when she's, like, at the end of her strength and she thinks of Nehemia, it was so beautiful, and I couldn't handle it. It was lovely. So that was really great. I just, like, I know Sarah has been working on this for so long, but, like, it really did pay off. The work and the time that she put into it is just, like, amazing, because I am stunned. So stunned. It was just really good. I'm exhausted. That was so much. Like, Manon. Oh, Manon. My sweet Manon and the 13. I think I just blocked her character out of my head. I totally forgot she existed for a second there. Her storyline in this book was everything I wanted it to be and so much more. I think leading up to it, it took a long time. I was just waiting for her to finally give Manon, like, the real character transformation that she needed, because it's, like, a long time coming. She's been building on it for so long, and we kind of got to see a little bit of that person in Empire, but I think she was still developing and still becoming this person who, like, does care about other people, who does have feelings, like, all that jazz. And in this book, I feel like she finally just, like, ran at that destiny and just, like, killed it. I love the scene with the matrons when she kills the Yellowlegs matron and, like, her grandmother runs away. Like, that was absolutely an amazing scene. I loved how she interacted with the Krakens. I love that she went after Petra and was like, join our cause. All right, bye. Like, that was a great scene. I love how important she became to just everything. And obviously the scene with the 13, I cried. It was a lot to handle. Wow. But I think that, honestly, like, that is the payment. We lost Gabriel and the 13 so that the others could live. I was kind of nervous that we were going to lose Abraxas there for a second, but when she was like, I would literally sacrifice myself for this wyvern. Like, I would do it. Iskrill Yellowlegs, please don't do this to my baby. I was like, wow, I felt that in my soul. There's nothing left. My whole soul is dead. I think that's actually all I have to talk about. I know I could go on for hours and I could keep remembering things and little scenes, and, like, there's just so much to talk about that I honestly don't know what to say. So I would really, really love it if you could leave a comment with, like, your favorite scene or your favorite couple or your favorite thing that happened, because I would love to talk about this book more and I could talk about it for hours. Let me know your thoughts, please, because I need to discuss it. Yeah, I hope you survived. I hope you loved it as much as I did, because I really genuinely think this is the perfect book that I've read so far in my life. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking around, for sticking with me. I know I've posted so much Throne of Glass content this year, this summer, this life, but this series just means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to some of you guys too, so it's great that we can bond over that, you know? Guess that's it. That's closing out the Throne of Glass videos. Never again. If you want to see how much I've changed, go watch my first Throne of Glass book review because it's a doozy. I guess I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!